In 1984, when Kenner started releasing the Superpowers toy line, all I could think about was how much I wanted a Wonder Woman figure. It was finally going to be my chance. Obtaining a Wonder Woman took on extra significance because in the late 1970s, I'd really wanted the Mego 12-inch Wonder Woman doll. But sadly, I'd never gotten her. The 12-inch Wonder Woman, sculpted to look like Linda Carter, was a little bit out of our family's means. My parents were young, and my dad was working his way through college with his GI Bill, which wasn't enough to support us on its own. So he'd taken a job at 7-Eleven that brought in enough to make all the money stretch, just enough for rent and groceries and the occasional splurge, which was usually a Star Wars action figure. Those at a $2 price point were something my parents could wrangle here and there. The $10 price point for the Wonder Woman Mego doll was not. And by the time Christmas, Easter, or my birthday rolled around, with a little extra cash set aside for gifts, or grandparents and other relatives willing to kick in extra cash for gifts, or just pick up a big-ticket item for me, she was gone. Not even the 8-inch Mego Wonder Woman was on store shelves near me by the time there was a little extra money for gifting. Thankfully, by 1984, my dad was starting to make more money, and not only was Wonder Woman an option, but the entire Superpowers line, including vehicles and the Hall of Justice playset, were also. My brother and I were both into the idea of superpowers, so we worked together to complete the initial 12-figure lineup, with the understanding that he was going to get Superman and Batman, and I was going to get Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and the rest we'd sort as we went. As the toys began to show up on shelves, there were plenty of Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Lex Luthor, and Jokers to be found. Eventually, the Flash would warm pegs at all of our usual toy stores and action figure aisles. But there was no Wonder Woman. We'd scour the toy aisles every week, hitting Walmart, KB, Toys Plus, Walgreens, and any and every store in every strip mall or shopping mall in between that sold toys. And yet, I couldn't find a Wonder Woman. Hawkman, Brainiac, and the Penguin were also not easy to track down at first, but eventually we found them all, except Wonder Woman. As 1984 started drawing to a close, I still hadn't found her. None of the kids I knew collecting superpowers had found her either. In our quest to find the various superpowers figures, both my brother and I began getting into comic books. The mini comics that came with each superpowers figure were really cool, and only made us more interested in the long boxes of comics at the shop where my dad went to look for records. The store was so cool. It had all sorts of movie posters, old rare records, the kind of stuff that Musicland and the Walmart music department just didn't carry. It was my dad's favorite store, and we went almost every week so he could look for records. One full side of the shop was just rows and rows of long boxes filled with old comics and several shelves with all the new stuff. And it was there that I discovered back issues. Of course, I got a back issue of Wonder Woman. One from only a year or two before, right after the symbol on her chest had changed from an eagle to the double W, with art by Gene Colan. I'd already loved comic books. As an original Star Wars kid, the long wait between Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back had been supplemented with issues of the Marvel Comics series. I'd pored over those issues, reading them to tatters. That was still during my dad's college years, when he was working at 7-Eleven, and he'd bring home comics. I'd read them as he sat having breakfast after his night shift before I would go to school, and he would get in a quick nap before it was time for his classes at college. It was through these books that I had gotten a taste of superheroes: Wonder Woman, Supergirl issues of the Superman family, Spider-Woman, and random Marvel and DC stuff. Every so often there would be a Charlton or Dell comic mixed in. But of all the comics I'd read, I really loved Supergirl and Wonder Woman and the X-Men, where Phoenix was a big deal. However, the comic books themselves hadn't really landed. They didn't dig down into my brain at that point, not the way they did in 1984. My next trip to my grandparents' house found me grabbing an issue of Wonder Woman off the spinner rack at a local convenience store. One where she was facing gremlins. And let me remind you, in 1984, gremlins were definitely something that drew every kid's interest, even mine. And it was Wonder Woman and gremlins. This was definitely something I had to read, and I did. And on our stop to gas up on the 4-hour drive home from my grandparents' house, I found a different issue of Wonder Woman, one that was 3 issues before the Gremlins one, so I got that one too. And this one had someone in it called Black Canary. Who was she? Would Kenner make her into a superpowers figure? She was so cool. By the time we got home from that trip, my love for comic books had really begun to take full root. I would regularly get back issues of Wonder Woman, and by the fall of 1984, when Wonder Woman finally showed up on a toy shelf, and I was able to finally obtain her comic books and superheroes, especially Wonder Woman and Supergirl, had dug deep down into my brain. My love of comics endures to this day. And to think, all of that came from the ongoing hunt for a 5-inch Wonder Woman action figure.